You know what's wild? Most people walk into a room apologizing for their existence before they even open their mouth. They smile when they don't want to, they agree when they shouldn't, and they shrink themselves down because somewhere along the way, someone told them confidence is arrogance. But here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. Real confidence, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, the kind that shifts power dynamics just by you existing in a space, that's not something you're born with. It's engineered. And 500 years ago, a guy named Machiavelli cracked the code. Not the watered-down, motivational poster version of confidence, but the raw, unfiltered, almost dangerous kind that makes people either follow you or get the hell out of your way. This isn't about positive affirmations or fake-it-till-you-make-it garbage. This is about psychological warfare, strategic presence, and understanding power dynamics so well that you become untouchable. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down exactly how Machiavelli's principles can turn you into someone so confident it actually unsettles people, and why that's exactly the energy you need in a world full of people-pleasers and approval-seekers. Look, I'm not here to tell you to be nice. Nice is a trap. Nice is what keeps you small. What I'm about to share will make some of you uncomfortable, because we've been conditioned to believe that confidence should be humble, quiet, unassuming. But Machiavelli understood something fundamental about human nature. People respect strength, they follow certainty, and they're terrified of those who don't need their validation. This video is structured into clear sections, each one giving you actionable Machiavellian strategies you can start using today. We're talking about body language that commands respect, verbal tactics that shut down challenges before they begin, and mindset shifts that rewire how you see yourself and how others see you. By the end of this, you'll understand why most confidence advice is designed to keep you mediocre, and how breaking those rules is exactly what separates legends from nobodies. So if you're ready to stop being the person everyone walks over and start being the person everyone notices, stay with me, because this gets intense. Section 1. The illusion of needing approval. The first thing you need to understand is that your need for approval is killing your confidence, and Machiavelli knew this centuries before modern psychology caught up. Every time you check someone's face to see if they liked what you said, every time you backtrack on your opinion because someone raised an eyebrow, you're handing them your power on a silver platter. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. And while that sounds harsh, what he's really saying is that respect rooted in your unwavering self-assurance is more valuable than affection rooted in your compliance. Most people are addicted to validation like it's oxygen, constantly scanning rooms for nods of approval, for smiles, for any sign that they're doing okay. This creates a pattern where your confidence becomes external, dependent on other people's moods, opinions, and energy. That's not confidence. That's performance anxiety dressed up in nice clothes. When you break free from needing approval, something shifts in how people perceive you. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability creates a subtle form of psychological tension that people interpret as power. Machiavelli understood that the moment you stop seeking permission to exist as you are, you force others to adjust to your reality, rather than you constantly adjusting to theirs. This doesn't mean being rude or dismissive. It means being unmoved by the emotional weather of those around you. Think about the most confident people you know. They don't change their energy based on who walks in the room. They don't suddenly become smaller or louder depending on the audience. They remain consistent, solid, anchored in their own sense of self-worth that doesn't require external reinforcement to stay intact. Now here's where it gets practical. Start by noticing every time you seek approval in small, everyday interactions. Do you over-explain yourself? Do you laugh at jokes that aren't funny just to fit in? Do you say sorry when you haven't done anything wrong? These are approval-seeking behaviors, and each one chips away at your presence. Machiavelli would tell you that a prince who explains himself too much invites doubt. The same applies to you. When you over-justify your decisions, you signal that you're not sure about them yourself, which makes others question you too. Confidence terrifies people because it doesn't ask for permission or provide justifications unless strategically necessary. Another layer to this is understanding that most people are so caught up in their own insecurities that they barely notice you anyway. Their judgment isn't about you. It's about them projecting their fears and limitations onto you. When you realize this, the need for approval evaporates because you see it for what it is, a phantom fear with no real power. Machiavelli's political strategies were built on understanding human nature at its core, and one of those core truths is that people are self-centered. They're thinking about themselves, not you. So why are you giving them so much power over how you feel about yourself? This is where the terrifying part of confidence comes in. When you stop caring about approval, you become difficult to manipulate. Manipulation relies on exploiting someone's need to be liked, accepted, or validated. Remove that need, and suddenly tactics that work on everyone else bounce off you like nothing. People notice this, they feel it, and it unsettles them because most of their social power comes from their ability to make others feel small or uncertain. When you don't play that game, when you remain calm and certain in yourself regardless of their tactics, you flip the power dynamic. They're forced to wonder why their usual moves don't work on you, and that question alone gives you the upper hand. Machiavelli also warned against being too predictable in your need for others. If people know they can control you through flattery or criticism, you become a puppet. But if you're genuinely indifferent to both praise and insult, if you remain steady regardless of external feedback, you become someone who cannot be easily read or controlled. This is what makes confidence terrifying. It's not about arrogance or aggression. It's about being psychologically unshakable. People are used to seeing cracks in others, weaknesses they can exploit or leverage. When they can't find those cracks in you, it creates a kind of intimidation that's subtle but powerful. Start practicing this by making decisions without seeking consensus. Don't poll your friends on every choice. Don't fish for compliments or validation on social media. Make a decision, stand by it, and watch what happens. You'll notice that people actually respect you more, not less. They might not always agree with you, but they'll respect your conviction. And respect is the foundation of the kind of confidence that makes people uncomfortable, because it challenges them to examine their own wishy-washy relationship with their choices and opinions. Another exercise is to stop apologizing unless you've genuinely wronged someone. Machiavelli understood that language shapes perception. When you constantly say sorry, you train others to see you as someone who's always in the wrong, always taking up too much space, always needing forgiveness for existing. Break that pattern. Stand in your space without apology. Speak your mind without prefacing it with disclaimers and hedges. This simple shift in language creates an entirely different energy around you. Finally, understand that the goal isn't to be liked by everyone. That's an impossible and exhausting goal that leaves you diluted and inauthentic. The goal is to be respected, and to respect yourself enough that external opinions become background noise rather than the soundtrack of your life. Machiavelli's princes didn't win by being popular. They won by being effective, decisive, and unwavering in their vision. Apply that same principle to your personal confidence, and you'll develop a presence that doesn't just enter rooms, it dominates them without saying a word. Section 2. Calculated silence and strategic speech. Machiavelli knew that power often lies not in what you say, but in what you don't say, and this principle is criminally underused when it comes to building terrifying confidence. Most people talk too much. They fill silence with nervous chatter, they over-explain, they seek to comfort others with constant verbal reassurance. But silence, strategic and deliberate silence, is one of the most powerful tools you have. When you speak less, every word you do say carries more weight. People lean in, they pay attention. They wonder what you're thinking, and that wondering gives you power, because you've created space in their mind that they're now trying to fill with assumptions about you. Think about it. Who seems more confident? The person who talks non-stop, jumping from topic to topic, desperate to fill every gap in conversation? Or the person who speaks calmly, deliberately, and only when they have something worth saying? The latter, always. Machiavelli advised that a wise leader observes more than they speak, and this advice translates directly to personal confidence. When you're comfortable with silence, when you're not scrambling to fill every pause, you signal that you're secure in yourself and that you don't need constant verbal validation or engagement to feel present. Now, this doesn't mean becoming mute or aloof. It means being intentional with your words. Before you speak, ask yourself if what you're about to say adds value, asserts your position, or moves the conversation forward. If it doesn't, stay silent. This practice alone will transform how people perceive you, because most conversations are filled with filler, with people talking just to hear themselves or to avoid the discomfort of quiet. When you break that pattern, You become memorable. You become the person whose words actually mean something. Machiavelli also understood the power of letting others talk themselves into corners. When you're silent, people reveal themselves. They expose their insecurities, their strategies, their weaknesses. This is intelligence gathering disguised as confidence. The more you listen, the more you understand. And understanding is control. People who dominate conversations think they're in control, but often they're just giving away their playbook while you sit back and take notes. This is strategic silence, and it's a weapon most people never learn to use. Another aspect of this is controlling the pace of conversation. When you're not reactive, when you take a beat before responding, you control the tempo. Reactive people are easy to manipulate because they're predictable. They respond immediately, emotionally, without thought. But when you pause, when you consider before speaking, you force others to operate on your timeline, not theirs. This subtle shift in conversational dynamics is incredibly powerful. It signals that you're not desperate to respond, that you're processing and choosing your words carefully, which makes those words land with more impact. Machiavelli also wrote about the dangers of being too transparent with your intentions, and this applies to how you communicate confidence. If you're always explaining your reasoning, your motivations, your feelings, you're giving people a roadmap to manipulate you. Strategic ambiguity, on the other hand, keeps people guessing. It creates an aura of mystery that people interpret as depth and confidence. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your choices, your opinions, or your actions. The more you explain, the more you dilute your power. This is where many people mess up. They think confidence means being loud, outspoken, always ready with a comeback. But Machiavellian confidence is the opposite. It's quiet, calculated, and devastatingly effective. It's the confidence of someone who knows they don't need to prove anything to anyone. When you stop trying to convince people of your worth through constant verbalization, you paradoxically become more convincing. Your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. Here's a practical drill. In your next conversation, consciously speak 50% less than you normally would. Listen more. Observe. Notice how the dynamic shifts. Notice how people actually listen more carefully when you do speak. Notice how much information others give you when you're not busy filling the space with your own voice. This exercise will feel uncomfortable at first, because we're trained to equate silence with awkwardness, but push through that discomfort. The discomfort others feel in your silence is them adjusting to your power, not a sign that you're doing something wrong. Machiavelli also understood that timing is everything. A well-timed statement can shift an entire conversation, but only if you've been silent enough to recognize the moment. If you're always talking, you miss these moments. You miss the opportunity to land a comment that changes the game because you're too busy filling air with noise. Strategic speech requires patience and observation, two qualities that scream confidence because they demonstrate self-control and awareness. Finally, understand that silence is not passive. It's an active choice, a strategic decision to hold your cards close and reveal them only when it serves you. People mistake quietness for weakness, and that's their mistake, one you can leverage. When they underestimate you because you're not performing confidence in the loud, obvious ways they expect, you gain the element of surprise. And surprise, as Machiavelli knew well, is a powerful tactical advantage. So speak less, mean more, and watch how quickly your confidence becomes the kind that makes people pause and reconsider every assumption they had about you.
Section 3.
Mastering body language and physical presence. Words are only part of the equation when it comes to confidence that terrifies people, and Machiavelli understood that presence, the physical manifestation of power, often communicates more than any speech ever could. Your body language is constantly broadcasting signals about your internal state, and most people have terrible body language that screams insecurity. Slouched shoulders, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, taking up as little space as possible. These are all physical manifestations of someone who doesn't believe in their own right to exist fully in a space. Machiavellian confidence requires you to reclaim your physical presence and use it as a tool of influence. Start with posture. Stand like you own the ground beneath your feet. Shoulders back, spine straight, head level. This isn't about being stiff or robotic. It's about embodying the physical form of someone who is unshakable. Machiavelli observed that leaders who carried themselves with physical authority commanded respect before they even spoke, and the same principle applies to you. When you walk into a room with strong, grounded posture, people subconsciously register you as someone to pay attention to. It's primal. It's hardwired into human psychology that physical presence equals status and capability. Eye contact is another critical element. Most people dart their eyes around, looking away quickly when someone meets their gaze. This signals submission, uncertainty, discomfort. Machiavellian eye contact is steady, calm, and direct. It doesn't stare aggressively, but it doesn't flinch away either. It holds. This single change in how you use your eyes can transform how people respond to you, because sustained eye contact communicates confidence, interest, and an unwillingness to be intimidated. It makes people feel seen, which can be both connecting and unsettling depending on the context. Space is power, and this is something Machiavelli understood in the context of territory and influence. In personal interactions, the same principle applies. Don't make yourself small. Don't cross your arms defensively or tuck yourself into corners. Take up space. Spread your presence physically in a way that's natural but expansive. When you sit, don't perch on the edge of the chair like you're ready to flee. Sit back. Settle in. Own your position. This physical claiming of space translates psychologically into others perceiving you as someone who belongs, someone who has authority. Movement is another key factor. Confident people move deliberately. They don't rush unless necessary. They don't fidget or display nervous energy through constant motion. Machiavelli would recognize this as control, the ability to govern not just others but yourself. When your movements are smooth, purposeful, and unhurried, you communicate that you're in control of yourself and your environment. This creates a kind of gravitational pull where people are drawn to your calm, stable energy in a world of anxious, frenetic movement. Gestures matter too. Use your hands when you speak, but make those gestures count. Big, open gestures convey confidence and openness, while small, tight gestures near your body signal insecurity. Think of how politicians and powerful public figures use their hands. They're expansive, they emphasize points, they command attention. You don't need to be giving a speech to use this principle. Even in one-on-one conversations, purposeful gestures add weight to your words and make you more memorable. Facial expressions are part of this physical presence toolkit. A neutral, calm face is more intimidating than you might think because it's unreadable. Machiavelli understood that mystery and unpredictability are forms of power. When your face doesn't give away your emotions constantly, people can't gauge how to approach you or manipulate you. This doesn't mean being stone-faced or emotionless. It means having control over what you reveal and when. Smile when you want to, not when you think you should to make others comfortable. Here's something practical. Practice taking up space in low-stakes environments. Stand in line without hunching. Sit in waiting rooms with open, relaxed posture. Walk through crowds moving at your own pace, not rushing or dodging excessively. These small daily practices rewire both your own psychology and how others perceive you. Over time, this physical confidence becomes second nature, and the effect it has on people becomes undeniable. Machiavelli also knew that physical presence must be backed by inner belief, otherwise it reads as performance. This is why working on your internal sense of worth is inseparable from these external practices. When you genuinely believe you have a right to take up space, your body language naturally reflects that. It's not something you have to consciously maintain. It becomes who you are. But you can kickstart this process by consciously choosing powerful body language until it reinforces the internal belief. Finally, understand that body language that terrifies people isn't about aggression or intimidation in a threatening sense. It's about an unshakable presence that doesn't apologize, doesn't shrink, and doesn't seek permission. It's the physical manifestation of someone who knows their value and doesn't need external confirmation. When you master this, you become someone who shifts the energy of any space you enter. And that's the kind of confidence Machiavelli would recognize and respect. Section 4. Strategic vulnerability and controlled emotion. Here's where most confidence advice gets it completely wrong, and where Machiavelli's understanding of human psychology becomes brutally effective. People think confidence means never showing weakness, never admitting fault, always being the toughest person in the room. But that's not confidence, that's armor. And armor is heavy, exhausting, and eventually it cracks. Machiavelli understood something counterintuitive. Strategic vulnerability is one of the most powerful tools you have, but only when you control when, where, and how you reveal it. This isn't about being an open book or wearing your heart on your sleeve. This is about calculated moments of humanity that make you more dangerous because people think they've found your weakness, when really, you've just given them exactly what you wanted them to see. Most people are either completely closed off or completely exposed, and both extremes make you predictable. The person who never shows emotion becomes robotic and ultimately untrustworthy because people can't connect with them. The person who spills their feelings everywhere becomes exhausting and easy to manipulate. Machiavellian confidence lives in the middle, where you choose your moments of vulnerability with surgical precision to create connection, disarm suspicion, or redirect attention. When you admit a small flaw or share a controlled piece of your struggle, people lower their guard around you. They think they understand you. They think they've seen behind the curtain. But really, you've just shown them exactly what you wanted them to see, while keeping your actual vulnerabilities protected. This is psychological warfare dressed up as authenticity. Machiavelli wrote extensively about appearing virtuous while maintaining the flexibility to act otherwise when necessary, and the same principle applies to emotional presentation. You want people to see you as human, relatable, someone who has overcome challenges, but you never want them to see your current operational weaknesses, the things that could actually be used against you. Past struggles are safe to share because they demonstrate resilience and growth. Current insecurities and fears? Those stay locked down unless revealing them serves a specific strategic purpose. Here's where the terrifying part comes in. When you master strategic vulnerability, you become nearly impossible to manipulate through emotional tactics because you've already controlled the narrative around your weaknesses. People can't shame you for something you've already acknowledged. They can't use your past against you if you've already framed it as a source of strength. This is Machiavellian confidence at its finest, turning potential weapons against you into shields by addressing them on your terms, not theirs. Most people are so afraid of being exposed that they hide everything, but that fear itself becomes the weapon others use against them. Controlled emotion is the other piece of this puzzle. Machiavelli understood that leaders who couldn't control their emotional responses were easily provoked and therefore easily defeated. The same applies to personal confidence. When someone can make you angry with a few words, when they can make you defensive or flustered or ashamed with minimal effort, they own you. Your emotional control is gone, and with it goes your power. But when you can feel emotions without being controlled by them, when you can choose whether and how to express what you're feeling based on what serves you best in that moment, you become untouchable. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming cold. It means creating space between the stimulus and your response. Someone insults you? Instead of immediately reacting, you pause, you process. You decide if this deserves a response and what that response should be. Maybe you laugh it off. Maybe you address it calmly. Maybe you ignore it entirely. But the key is that you choose, consciously and deliberately, rather than being pulled around by your emotions like a puppet on strings. This level of self-control is terrifying to others because they're used to being able to provoke reactions, to push buttons and get predictable results. When their tactics don't work on you, they lose their power. Machiavelli also understood that showing the right emotion at the right time could be more powerful than any logical argument. Strategic anger, for instance, can be devastating when used sparingly. If you're always calm and measured, and then you allow yourself one moment of visible frustration or anger at something that truly matters, people pay attention. That emotion carries weight because it's rare, because it signals that this particular issue crosses a line. But if you're always angry, always reactive, that emotion becomes meaningless noise that people tune out. The same principle applies to other emotions. Strategic enthusiasm can rally people to a cause. Strategic concern can create urgency. Strategic humor can diffuse tension or redirect aggression. But all of these require control, the ability to access and display emotion when it serves your purpose, rather than being at the mercy of whatever you happen to be feeling in the moment. This is advanced level confidence, because it requires deep self-awareness and emotional intelligence that most people never develop. Here's a practical application. Start noticing your emotional triggers, the things that reliably make you defensive, angry, anxious, or reactive. Once you identify them, you can start creating that space between trigger and response. When someone hits one of these triggers, train yourself to pause before responding. Take a breath. Ask yourself what response serves you best in this situation, not what response feels most satisfying in the moment. This practice alone will dramatically increase your perceived confidence because you'll stop being easily manipulated through emotional provocation. Another layer to this is understanding that people are constantly testing you, consciously or unconsciously, to see where your boundaries are and how much they can control you through emotional manipulation. When you pass these tests by remaining calm, measured, and strategic in your emotional responses, you train people to treat you differently. They learn that they can't provoke you, can't guilt-trip you, can't use emotional theatrics to get what they want from you. This creates respect, sometimes grudging respect, but respect nonetheless. Finally, strategic vulnerability and controlled emotion work together to create a version of you that's both human and formidable, approachable but not exploitable, relatable but not weak. This is the sweet spot of Machiavellian confidence. You're not a cold, unfeeling machine that people can't connect with, but you're also not an emotional open wound that people can easily hurt or manipulate. You're strategically human, showing enough to create connection and trust while protecting your core, your real vulnerabilities, your actual operational weaknesses. And when people encounter this combination, they don't quite know what to do with you. You don't fit their usual categories of either threatening or safe, strong or weak. You're something else entirely, and that ambiguity, that unpredictability, that's what makes your confidence truly terrifying. Because they can't figure out how to control you, and in a world where most people are trying to control each other through emotional leverage, being uncontrollable is the ultimate power move. So here's the bottom line. Confidence that terrifies people isn't about being the loudest, the most aggressive, or the most perfect person in the room. It's about being psychologically unshakable, strategically present, and impossible to control. Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago what most people still haven't figured out. That real power comes from mastering yourself first, then using that mastery to navigate the world on your terms, not everyone else's. You've just learned how to break free from approval seeking, how to weaponize silence, how to command space with your physical presence, and how to strategically reveal just enough humanity to connect while protecting your core. These aren't just tips, they're a complete rewiring of how you show up in the world. Now comes the hard part, actually doing it. Because knowing this information changes nothing if you don't implement it. Start small. Pick one principle from this video and practice it tomorrow. Maybe it's taking up more space physically. Maybe it's speaking 50% less in conversations. Maybe it's not apologizing when you've done nothing wrong. Whatever it is, commit to it and watch what happens. You'll notice people treating you differently almost immediately. Some will respect you more. Some will be uncomfortable. Some will test you harder to see if this new energy is real. Let them test. Let them be uncomfortable. That discomfort is them adjusting to the fact that you're no longer playing by the old rules. This is your permission slip to stop shrinking yourself for other people's comfort. Be unapologetically present. Be strategically vulnerable. Be terrifyingly confident. And remember, Machiavelli's princes didn't win by being liked. They won by being effective, decisive, and impossible to ignore. Now go out there and become the version of yourself that makes people pause, reconsider, and wonder what changed. Because everything just did.